Hi, I'm Matthew Doyle. I'm a game artist and game designer, and I've worked in the industry since the year 2000. Today I'm going to talk to you about modeling, something that I've done a lot of actually. So once a game is designed and concepted, the next step is to actually create the 3D assets that will go into the game, and that obviously falls to the 3D modeler. Now 3D modelers come in many shapes and sizes. They can either be character artists or environment artists. Some 3D modelers work strictly with polygons, and some 3D artists do sculpting in programs like Mudbox. If you're a character artist, it's important to study human anatomy and animal anatomy. Just as a concept artist should always be drawing, a 3D artist should also always be modeling and working with anatomical references and going out in the real world and seeing what that real world looks like and studying the shape of things. Now this brings us to a pretty important topic as a 3D modeler. Now you can model any character in any fashion that you desire using 3D apps like Mudbox, Maya, and 3ds Max. But you should always bear in mind that those models have clean topology. That is, they're made up entirely of quads or four-sided polygons. And the reason you want to do this as a 3D modeler is to build models that are going to animate properly and that will also subdivide properly. Now 3D modeling is an intensive process and it has many steps. So first up is starting from a model sheet that is given to you by a concept artist. And you bring that model sheet into your application and you use it to begin poly-modeling the rough shape of the character or environment. Poly-modeling is really just the process of taking a basic shape such as a cube, this is often called box modeling as well, and then pushing and pulling, extruding that square and its faces until you begin to get the shape of your character. And the more you continue to extrude those faces and cut the polygons out and shape everything to fit that model sheet, the more that cube will begin to look like an actual character. A 3D modeler is often also required to do what's called UV mapping of a character. The 3D modeler will basically need to actually flatten that character out into a 2D plane of what's called UV space. Now, once a character is flattened out into UV space, he'll be able to be textured and materialed, giving him his color and other specularity and so forth. Now the good news is a lot of this process has been made a lot easier over the years than it used to be when game development first began in 3D. Now it's really important as a 3D modeler to create what I call clean models. Now what that means is basically creating a model that is going to work well for subdivision modeling in a program like Mudbox as well as animation. Now also a clean model is going to ensure that the model looks good under game lighting. If the model is not clean, if it has overlapping polygons or edges that are orphaned or verts that are orphaned or just any situation that's not considered a clean model, that can create lighting artifacts in the game as well as animation issues and a host of other problems. Also, you want to make sure that your character, as much as possible, is all quads. Now, polygons come in all shapes and sizes. They can be triangles, they can be 5-sided, 6-sided, on up to whatever sided, n-gons as they call them. But when it comes to games, it's always best to work with quads, that is a 4-sided polygon. Now this is better for animation, but it's also going to be better for doing subdivision modeling in a program like Mudbox. Now what is subdivision modeling? Well, basically when you take a low poly model that you would create in something like 3ds Max or Maya into a program like Mudbox, you can actually subdivide that model further. And what happens is Mudbox will basically cut each polygon into quarters. So a 4-sided polygon will subdivide very well because Mudbox essentially draws a line down both the vertical and horizontal centers of that polygon, creating 4 polygons out of 1. And so a model that has been cleanly modeled with all quads will subdivide obviously a lot better than one that isn't. So if you're not also a rigger and animator and you're only a 3D modeler, then it's going to be important that you work closely with the riggers and animators to make sure that the 3D model is what they need to be able to get their job done.